So you made a claim I lied, that I said you dropped the paper on psychology, but you didn't. You dropped the paper about photogonometry, whatever that's pronounced. And you posted this the exact same minute when I said this. Your clip, like it's at 10:39 p.m. UTC, and your message on your screenshot that was supposed to prove I was lying is literally the same minute. So this isn't conclusive of me lying because it's literally the same minute. What I was doing is I didn't see you drop the paper yet because it happened the same minute. I was talking about your behaviors in general. Like, because I discussed with you already hundreds of times, I wasn't talking about this particular situation because you didn't drop the paper yet, or if you did a couple of seconds before I said that and I didn't notice it yet. I was talking about the general algorithm you operate on, that you have this paper. I mean, this is one of the two you have. And you say this, and then you do this tactic. No, we didn't. It's the same minute. Look at the minute in your clip and look at the minute in your message on your screenshot. 10:39. 10:39. Isn't a good look.
All right, so he's coming in. He says he's getting a coffee and he's coming in. So get the popcorn out, guys.
Okay, nice.
Better watch out. For an English dude to be drinking coffee, you're going to be in trouble, bro, because they usually drink tea.
I mean,
I'm in.
when you
I'm in.
to. Oh, here we go.
Can you hear me? Hello? Check one.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, you're
we
good,
can,
bro.
yeah, salute SE first of all, before the disrespect comes along. How
There's
are you?
going to be no disrespecting, bro. I'm going to mod this. So,
Yeah, no, good,
sir.
good, because I'm gonna need someone with sanity, because if you bear with me though, because I can barely hear you.
You're kind
My
of choppy,
English.
Gleem. You're kind of choppy, bro.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds. Output volume 100. Check one. Can someone speak so I can hear you?
Testing,
Yes, I
testing.
can.
Yeah, that's much better. Nice one. Hi, eMBO. How art thou?
Hello.
You good?
Yeah, I'm very good. Thanks for
Yeah.
asking.
If it's okay, we'll discuss 3 things. It's literally 11:30 at night, and I haven't got all night. Okay, I can be up text chatting, yeah, but that's because I've got kids in the next room and the room below. All right, so we ain't going all night. 3 things I want to talk about, if you are happy with this, but I first need to make sure that we're on an understanding that what you believe versus what I believe to start with. Yeah. So the 3 topics I want to talk to you about is 1, my Polaris maths and your geometry quiz, let's say with the tree. Yeah. Then I want to discuss about optometry, how there are perspective distortions in perception. And then I want to move on to finally distortions in photography. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm fully happy to debate all three of them.
Okay, now first, I mean, I just need to say you are absolutely stupidly, all of you in the chat, either way. You just literally said, oh, he cited that paper about photography after you said it. No, I was already talking about photography and I've just recited the thing that I cited to Pink up at the top. You're all just bunch of lying scumbags, and I hate it, right? But either way, let's have a civil conversation.
Okay.
How this started. I have perspective maths that I call perspective maths, showing that the angles to Polaris can work. Okay, now you're going to disagree with that. I fully know. I know 1,000,000% you're going to disagree with that. However, just to give the chat the background, Conspiracy Cats once put out a statement that said it is impossible to represent 1 degree per 69 miles on a flat surface. As soon as he said that, as soon as I hear the word impossible, and I know maths is abstract and it can do a lot of things, yeah, I went away. Probably took me about half an hour to get the first formula, and then I literally rolled it out and done that animation. Took me a couple of hours. All right. So
Okay.
from that, we were in a discussion, if you remember, about that Polaris maths. Obviously, your stance is that's a load of bullshit. Yeah. Just got to confirm that.
I can give you my opinion on this.
Sure.
I think what happened here is when Conspiracy Cats said the word impossible, he automatically assumed by impossible he means physically impossible because he assumed all of the people who will be interpreting his speech will get that in context. But there's an ambiguity of what the word impossible means. There's logically impossible, there's physically impossible. Logically impossible is what like just isn't contradictory, internally contradictory. Physically impossible is that we have our laws of physics, all of the physical constants and forces, and what disagrees with them. So your math is logically possible because obviously it works out in math, but physically impossible means that light has to bend at an impossible way that isn't predicted by Fermat's principle, it isn't predicted by Snell's law, just to perfectly mimic what the globe would do. So I think there's an ambiguity here. You kind of exploited it, and I don't really have any evidence to prove that he meant physically impossible, but I think it's kind of obvious from the context. If we're talking about the debate about the physical reality, what the shape of the Earth is, then this automatically would be the default context that he means physically impossible. Given our laws of physics, this doesn't work because obviously you can make up whatever stuff you want that could still be logically possible, but this doesn't make it physically possible. You could make up that there's that there are unicorns pushing Mars, and that's why it's moving in orbit. And that doesn't mean it's equally rational explanation as laws of gravity.
I agree with the first bit in as much as, yes, you're right. It is abstract versus reality. Definitely. You are absolutely right. However, you didn't watch Conspiracy Cats, as you said. You got no evidence of what he said or why he was saying it. Okay, so he literally done the standard maths, which puts Polaris at totally different angles as soon as you get past sort of like 45 degrees or something. Yeah. Now he literally made that statement. I took it as it could never be done. Okay. You've taken it as physically impossible. I've taken it as mathematically abstract impossible. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Do we agree on that? We do agree. Yeah.
I can trust that. Yeah, I can trust that.
Yeah. Okay. Now, first, he actually showed it. He actually showed it on his chat. I was begging him. I was like, "Yeah, mate, you got to show this. You got to show this." And the reason being is because I just launched my album and I actually tagged on an advert on the end of it. And at that time, Conspiracy Cats was probably one of the lead boys apart from Simon and Dan, but Conspiracy Cats done live streams. So he had about 300 to 400 viewers. So I was capitalizing on that by doing the impossible maths and then saying, I've done it. Here is my advert for my album. Okay. He actually bought my album because of that. So that paid for itself in just doing that. Okay. But either way, I agree with you. I agree with you. Now, for me, on the abstract side, I've got to then say to myself, okay, I've done the maths. I've done the nice little graphic and whatnot. I've done the animation. Does this work in reality? And that is my next step. Okay. So I mean, what would you do if you had a bit of abstract maths that matched reality, but you know it doesn't match concepts that we already know of in science? What would you do from there? Where would your next research steps be?
I would personally check out if those concepts could actually be incorrect in this specific case.
And that's exactly what I did. Yeah.
Okay.
And
But
you
your
know where?
math, do you remember what your math involves with Polaris?
Yep, definitely. But what I want to do is I want to hold a first stance before we get into the likes of, because that's the history of it, and then we've got this me getting the geometry wrong, the geometry side of it wrong, apparently. Yeah, and then I want to move on to the actual papers. Now, the cool thing about this is that I need you to clarify your stance before we even go there. Okay, so I need to understand from you, if I forgetting perception, right, we can move away from that, because as you see, I don't just cite perception papers. I have that U and He one, which is the basis of what I found. I went on to research and I said, oh, are there any perspective errors? Because at that time I thought perspective would have been geometrically correct. Okay, so then I research it, and obviously searching on the internet, you come across papers. Papers show by Galinsky, Loomberg, many scientists back in the 50s who tested it and who found that yes, there are issues. There are issues with, and I've got to clarify this because you are so hard and tight up on this, but there are issues with a human's brain, so nothing to do with a camera, okay? A human's brain misperceiving the distance of something, which you can say is just an illusion, Gleem. You're talking a load of nonsense. However, it does have some real world effects in there. For example, the US Army had to modify their stadiometric ranging devices on their grenade launchers to actually account for this mistake that we always make with our eyes and brains. Okay. So at the end of the day, you are 100% correct, in as much as the brains and perception shouldn't have any involvement when we're taking a photo. Okay.
Yeah.
But I need to clarify from you from the outset here. I take a photo of a scene with a mountain in the background. Can I perfectly reconstruct that scene from geometry?
I would say yes, knowing certain parameters. They would basically have to be the focal length of the camera, the distance to the mountain, the height of the mountain. If you want to say perfectly, like not only like a simplified model, drawing it
I'm
like
not,
a triangle, then
yeah,
you
I'm
would
not
also
talking
need
no
a
errors.
free. Okay, then you would also need a 3D model of how this topography looks like. But this is kind of missing the topic, because we're not talking about the fact that we don't have perfect 3D models of reality. We're talking about things geometrically appearing somewhere different. So in this context, no, I think such errors don't exist. The only thing that could come close is camera distortion, is lens distortion, and that can be accounted for knowing the focal length of the camera, because it basically depends on it. The smaller focal length, the more distortion you have.
Yep.
See, I would say that 100% you could tell the difference between a globe, what a globe would predict for the photo, and what flat Earth would predict for the photo.
If I'm honest, I don't actually care about the global flat Earth at this moment. We're discussing perspective distortions, and I appreciate what eMBO just said. eMBO just said, I mean, I need to retract because I need to make sure that I understand your position before we go into the next level. Your position was, no, you cannot just recreate reality by measuring a photo. Is that correct? Because without any other information, you've got a photo that you've just taken of a mountain, it's on your table, you've got a ruler, let's say, or even as much as is in Photoshop, and you can zoom in right to pixel level. Can you count pixels without knowing the telephoto lens or any lens distortion? Can you reconstruct reality to a good degree?
What do you mean by reality? Do you mean the distances to the objects?
Yeah, like could you make a 3D model from a photo with having no other information other than the photo, is what I'm trying to get at.
I mean, no, that's ridiculous. You cannot, because you cannot, for example, get the distance to an object. That already would be a problem. So just based on this example, no, you cannot. But I don't think but I don't think this can prove what you claim. I think this is an example of a Motte and Boyle fallacy,
What
because
did I claim? Sorry.
your claim is that objects don't actually appear in the place where they would geometrically appear given a projection to the observer's plane of vision.
Well,
That they
we know
are
this. I mean, it's a separate topic, and I don't want to move over to this topic, but we know that this happens with the sun. The sun on the horizon is already below the horizon yet. So it's geometrically below the horizon, but we see it above the horizon. Is that correct? And that's refraction, nothing to do with perspective.
Yeah, that's refraction, but I meant an effect caused by the observer's eyes in some way that are being claimed. Which
Yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
don't think
I'm a
happened.
bit confused there. We're talking about the main thing I wanted to do is to say that my line of inquiry went from doing the maths, then researching whether, as in retrofitting, whether there is science out there that validly says that there is issues with perspective versus geometry. Okay, so I really want to clarify on photographs. You do need more information than just the photograph, because the reason why I'm leading you down this path is that the likes of Conspiracy Cats, who analyzes, Zanuck was just showing me his work in there. He literally has no information on that, and I can even argue there are a lot of issues with EXIF information. So if you're just downloading a photograph like the White Swan, you're fully aware of the White Swan, the Blackpool Tower. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
download that now, it will give me an EXIF telephoto zoom, and it will give me the field of view and whatnot. I've cited in there scan tips, and that was the one before you said anything about it. I was already citing the photographic papers. Not even a paper, it's a website of a professional photographer and scanner. He's an image scanner. So he clearly says that at the end of the day, EXIF information is unreliable because it will either round up or round down. It won't give your exact telephoto zoom. Okay, but neither here nor there. Let's say that you can get that information. Okay, is it only the camera lens information that you need to worry about for distortions, or is there a separate effect which happens because of your perspective?
In my opinion, there's only an effect caused by the optics of the lens. This is the only thing that would you need additional information for to get this image. But you mentioned Zanuck doing analysis on pixels on a Blackpool Tower photo, and I think this is where Motte and Bailey came in, because previously when you wanted me to agree that you cannot recreate such a simulation, you didn't allow me to get any information besides just the photo, not even a distance to an object, right? But the method with counting pixels and then converting that into a physical size, this involves knowing the distance to the object. So if Zanuck was doing that,
Sure.
then he knew the distance to the object.
Sure.
So that was definitely not analogous.
Sure.
If you know
It is mainly because what I was trying to get is a base level to say that you can't just slap a ruler on a photograph and expect that you're going to get reality. You could get two photographs of the same thing and have two different cameras, two different focal lengths, and they will produce different results, won't they? And to the human eye, they will look virtually identical. Yeah, but you will get, because of different lens profiles and whatnot.
Yeah, but my take is this: there's not that big of it's not that big of a difference.
I don't
There is
care about your take, if I'm honest. I'm speaking to eMBO.
You said,
But you carry on.
eMBO, Pinky, and Mel can talk. If you,
Yeah,
hold on,
Rich,
Pinky. Gleem, do you want to have just a 1v1?
Rich can go in, but I don't want this lasting all night. It's now 11:39, and we are halfway through in my eyes. But get your
this
spiel
isn't
out,
Rich,
Rich.
by the way.
Oh, sorry. You are Finky. Sorry, I apologise. On my screen,
He
is
wishes.
obviously a delay. There we go. I apologise dearly, Finky. That is my fault. I'm looking at the actual YouTube live stream and it's delayed. And Rich is. I apologise dearly, Rich, there, and apologise to Finky. Yes, I apologise. I'm going to mute myself and think he could talk. Definitely.
Okay, so my take is two things. One, when you're talking about angles to Polaris, and I mean, if you'd be interested, I would like to go back and do the math for it, but it sounds like we've kind of moved on. But like when we're talking about angles to Polaris, you can go out with a theodolite and you can center that thing in the center frame. And if we look at all the papers you've linked about about perspective distortion, about camera distortion, the amount of distortion at the center frame is 0. And I think that's you kind of dance around that issue.
Not at all.
But
I agree with that. Always agree with
Okay.
that. But it's only the center pixel. The center pixel. There will
Great.
be.
So we can
an
go out
element.
and measure. So we can go out and measure the angles to Polaris,
Mhm.
and the center pixel. There's going to be no distortion.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly that. And that is where my maths comes from. If you were to measure that in
No, your math
reality,
doesn't come from
no,
that.
wait there, hang on. If you were to measure that in reality, my maths would work in reality.
Well, your math
Even though
uses 1 degree per 60 nautical miles, so it is going to
so
work
that
for
matches reality, yes. Yeah. Even
Yeah,
though
but
the
that's a
actual
globe.
math
It matches
maths-
reality because of a globe. It doesn't like that doesn't work on a flat plane. On a flat plane perspective, as you move, like there's a non-linear relationship between the amount things drop in the sky and the distance you travel. Right? Nothing like on a flat plane, things wouldn't drop in the sky 1 degree per 60 miles.
I get what you're saying, but my basis was I need to match reality. Okay. And eMBO made it absolutely clear. And that was a perfect explanation that he said we have physical known things and we have abstract maths. And I used the abstract maths. And he was saying, oh, Conspiracy Cats was believing in the physical side. And that's your whole concentration.
No,
That is
I'm just saying you can't use 1 degree per 60 nautical miles. That concept doesn't work with perspective.
Okay. We'll put it this way. If I had that maths and forgetting on how I got there, yeah, if I had that maths and used that as a tool, it would have predictive power. Yes or no?
It does because that's the way it works on a globe.
Okay, but it's
And
on a
that's
flat
the way it works in
surface.
reality.
But it's converted to a flat surface, yeah.
You kind of dance around that issue.
Not at all.
But
I agree with that. Always agree with
Okay.
that. But it's only the center pixel. The center pixel. There will
Great.
be.
So we can
an
go out
element.
and measure. So we can go out and measure the angles to Polaris,
Mhm.
and the center pixel. There's going to be no distortion.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, exactly that. And that is where my maths comes from. If you were to measure that in
No, your math
reality,
doesn't come from
no,
that.
wait there, hang on. If you were to measure that in reality, my maths would work in reality.
Well, your math
Even though
uses 1 degree per 60 nautical miles, so it is going to
so
work
that
for
matches reality, yes. Yeah. Even
Yeah,
though
but
the
that's a
actual
globe.
maths
It matches
maths-
reality because of a globe. It doesn't like that doesn't work on a flat plane. On a flat plane perspective, as you move, like there's a non-linear relationship between the amount things drop in the sky and the distance you travel. Right? Nothing like on a flat plane, things wouldn't drop in the sky 1 degree per 60 miles.
I get what you're saying, but my basis was I need to match reality. Okay. And eMBO made it absolutely clear. And that was a perfect explanation that he said we have physical known things and we have abstract maths. And I used the abstract maths. And he was saying, oh, Conspiracy Cats was believing in the physical side. And that's your whole concentration.
No,
That is
I'm just saying you can't use 1 degree per 60 nautical miles. That concept doesn't work with perspective.
Okay. We'll put it this way. If I had that maths and forgetting on how I got there, yeah, if I had that maths and used that as a tool, it would have predictive power. Yes or no?
It does because that's the way it works on a globe.
Okay, but it's on
And
a
that's
flat
the way
surface.
it works in reality.
But it's converted to a flat surface, yeah.
No, like 1 degree per 60 nautical miles cannot work on a flat surface. I mean, basically, the way I look at it is the Polaris math you did is the exact same thing that Walter Bislins did. There's no difference.
Yes, it was exactly that. It was translate the 1 degree per 69 miles on a flat surface.
Yeah, and
Do we agree with
it
that?
requires
It's abstract. Well, no. Let's not go down that it requires light to bend impossibly, because that's a load of bullshit with
No,
Walter's
it's
model.
not. I mean, so
It
I
is.
agree.
It
I
is.
agree. Yes. No, I agree.
It
I
is.
agree with that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is a load of bullshit because he completely omitted refraction and any mechanism to actually bend light. You can come from the argument of, yeah, that definitely wouldn't work. I can see it wouldn't work based on unknown physics, but that's not how modeling works, is it really? You have to model it and actually introduce it and include it in your model in order for it to actually be, yeah, this is how much it doesn't work. Okay, and my whole stance, just for the audience sake, is that you can go right the way back to my very first debate with McToon. You can go back to all my debates on his channel. I've done 4. You can go non-sec. You can go FTFE. Simon Dan's I've even been on. I'm one of the very few people to actually have a debate on Simon Dan's channel. And in every single one, I say I'm a globe earther. However, I am defending the flat earthers in saying that there is a problem with perspective. It's not just a geometrical switch to side view and it works all the time. Okay, so that is my stance. Now, at the end of the day, everybody in the globe side 100% never accounts for any other distortions. So it's much the same as Walter Bislin's model. Yes, he does account for the dome that Jeren invented, so to say. Yes, he's projected the globe on the inside of that dome. Yeah, but then he's made a claim, oh, that bending light would be impossible on this model when he hasn't shown it. Okay, so in science, do you have to account for and show everything in your model? Yeah, even if it's a minor effect, if you're looking to prove that thing.
I mean, like you want to include as much as you can, yeah. But so I have a question, and then I'll mute up and let eMBO take a turn. But
No,
when
seriously,
you always
sorry.
say,
Don't take what I just said earlier. That please delete that. I want to have conversations with both of you. I mean, if
no, I'm
eMBO
saying no more
wants
for
to jump back
eMBO. I
in,
don't want to dominate. I want to give
go on,
eMBO a chance. But
go on. Sorry.
like this is the way. Okay, so let's say there are perspective distortions, but there's no perspective distortion at center frame. Okay, so if you're looking center frame, the side view is going to match, correct?
Ish, because you then have refraction. But I would say
No, but
from
I
a
mean
globe,
refraction. You would model refraction in the side view.
yeah, from a globe point of view, yeah, from a glober's point of view with refraction, yes, that would match.
Okay, and I'm just talking like geometrically. Geometrically, there's no perspective distortion at the center frame.
At the
So
center frame
side
with
view,
one straight line, yes,
yeah.
agreed.
Okay.
I agree with that 100%. Yes.
Okay, because
Now,
one of my beefs is the way that you dismiss side view like it doesn't work or something when it does. Like
no,
orthometric view works.
no. Let me enlighten you on side view. eMBO, I don't know whether you want to put something in on here because the side view is moving on topic, so to say. But essentially, I think the ground basis that I've got out of yours, which is sound. Yeah, I'm not actually arguing with, yes, we require more information than just a photo. We can't just measure pixels. We do need to know bare minimum the distances involved. Yeah, and then as eMBO said, for distortions analysis, we will need the lens. Now, are we all on the same page?
No.
Go on, eMBO. Sorry, correct me if I've misrepresented you.
I think you're not correct because the lens distortion is the only type of additional information you would need to know besides the obvious stuff like the distance to the object. And I don't think there's any proof of some additional external effects, and just taking the lens distortion that is definitely predictable because a lens is just a convex lens. You can do refraction math of it on it. It's just Snell's law. So you can definitely model it without any problems. I think just taking that and just saying that we cannot know anything, that doesn't logically follow, and you would have to show an external evidence that there are some effects just besides that.
Yeah, no, that's where I'm trying to get at here. The side view is that point. Okay, but essentially, you would need to know basic information of sizes, distances, and in order to correct for these lens distortions, you'd need to know the lens profile. And it's that simple. Then we can recreate reality in your point of view.
I do agree.
Yep.
I do
I
One
mean,
agree.
other point-
that
one other
is
point I
your
wanna make
view.
is-
Oh, sorry. I was going to say that is your view, not my view, by the way. So I
Oh,
just wanted
okay.
to clarify your view. I'll give my view after Finky's just said. Go on. What was you
Yeah.
just about to say?
Typically with these pictures that we're looking at, they're heavily zoomed in, and the more zoomed in, the less you're going to have perspective distortions. I just think the whole perspective distortion thing it's a red herring to sort of say, oh, we can't know anything, and to kind of avoid talking about the real issue, which is the Polaris thing doesn't work at all. And it can't be, you can't say, oh, maybe it's refraction. Maybe there's nothing that will account for it.
No, you're saying it doesn't work at all, but we've just established there are two separate things. It doesn't work with the current physics known, or it works abstractly. So you can't blanket say it doesn't work because trig is trig. Yeah.
No,
But
it doesn't
I-
work. It doesn't work because 1 degree per 60 nautical miles cannot work on a flat plane. Like, it doesn't work abstractly. You
Okay.
have to introduce something
So
else.
how did I do it? How did I do it?
You put 1 degree per 60 nautical miles in, and that
Okay,
forces
so
the
that forces
actual
it to
height.
work.
maybe I can move it a little
Go
bit
on.
on.
Yeah,
Go on. We're
If
going
you-
into side view in a minute because
you
that
forget.
is what the Polaris mass is.
No, I mean,
Okay.
what it does though, it makes, when you put that in, it basically just makes Polaris move for no
Yes.
reason other
Yes.
than a person
Yep.
moves away from it. It
Yep.
just
Agree.
moves.
But it works. But that works. Yeah. The abstract
Okay.
side of having no physics to back it, just abstract mass. It works. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, but that's just like, I mean, it does.
No,
Yeah.
that's the
but
establishment
I-
because you're blanketly saying it does not work at all. Yes, it does. Maths can do
But-
anything with. Yeah,
but
virtually everything.
I think the problem people have with you is that you're throwing yourselves into conversations where it's obvious from the context that people, when they're talking about what is possible and what is not possible, what is predicted by the model or not predicted, they are talking about the physical possibility. And then what you're doing there is is going there and exploiting the ambiguity of the word possible and claiming that this is possible because you've proven it mathematically. I mean, yes, it is, but this is not what we're talking about. We're
No,
talking
Yeah, like
about what the models
imagine
predict.
for a second. Imagine I take you take the height of Polaris, and then on the side of it, I put a variable. That variable is the height required to make this work on a flat Earth.
Yep.
And I just add that number in. I mean, abstractly, I made it work,
dark
but I
angles.
haven't done anything.
Yeah, we'll call it dark angles. Yeah. If that's all right, we'll call that variable dark angles, and dark angles make it work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
there you go.
I'm skeptical of dark matter, so yeah, you can call that.
I
That's
know
fine.
where you're going with it, but
No,
sure.
no. Either way, it was just to say it's a fudge factor. We're right, aren't we? We're right. It's a fudge factor. What I've done
Yeah.
is fudged it to make it match a flat surface, which was exactly what I was looking to do. I mean, I personally, from the tit for tat with me and Conspiracy Cats is a good guy. I actually love him. But either way, he will, at the end of the day, make definitive statements. One of those, and just I don't want to distract it, but one of those was you could never represent PNS waves on a flat Earth. Now, I was like, oh, can you? Okay. And I started searching papers and whatnot, or just lessons. And I think it was someone like Berkeley or someone like that literally has a paper that says we do all of our modeling of PNS waves on a flat Earth model, and then we translate it from there to a globe. Okay, so then I've gone back to him, but what he actually said, his actual definitiveness was, I am going to delete my channel if a flat earther can show me anything where we use a flat earth for PNS waves. And I literally posted it him and I said, Cats, please do not delete your channel. Yeah, I'm going to put this out there straight away. No idiot should request you to delete your channel. And he was going big time at that time. But you shouldn't delete your channel, but you've made a wrong, incorrect statement. Yes, we can do analysis on flat Earth. There's actually Walcott 19B, I think it's called, Walcott, a guy called Walcott, who was stubborn and always used the flat Earth model on his analysis of massive glaciers that would normally need a globe. but he done it on a flat Earth model, and he didn't actually convert it over to the globe. He didn't he didn't use a globe Earth model in the end of it, which everyone would normally do. He just literally modeled it on the flat Earth, and that was his analysis. He actually had that model, which is a flat Earth model. Now, either way, let's go into the side view, because this is where it gets funny. Okay. Now, obviously, flat earthers need a horizon. Are we correct? Do we agree? Sorry, I said that wrong.
To explain reality, yes.
Yes. Think? Are you in agreement?
Yeah, sorry, I was looking for something. The question was, does flat Earth need a horizon in order to explain reality? Yeah, we need a horizon. Yeah.
And obviously, with flat Earth, let me ask the question, because not a lot of people actually admit this, even though it is fact. What is the mechanism that flat earthers use to replace globe Earth curve?
Perspective.
There's a ton of different reasons. There's a ton of different things, but dark angles is one.
No, dark angles is my thing, and I've just made that up for Polaris. So,
well, Shane
let me just get to it, because
Shane did dark angles then.
Did he? Well, he's took that from me in the piss. But anyway.
Well, I mean, he took Walter Bislin. He took Walter Bislin's model, which has dark angles in it.
I know he did. I gave it him. And so what? It's open source code on the internet. You can't tell me that you have not robbed a piece of code off the internet, Finky. Come on.
I mean, not something that somebody else published that says copyright Walter Bislin's on it.
It didn't say copyright at all. I know it didn't, because I checked it.
I've downloaded the diff. I've downloaded the diff. I've downloaded the diff. It
doesn't have copyright in there.
100%.
You're cutting out for me. I don't know if it is for anyone else. It could be my internet.
No, I've looked at the diff, and for sure, Shane deleted all the copyrights.
Either way, I mean, I've spoken to Walter personally directly, so I don't believe you, but it's okay. Let's go into the mechanisms that the flat Earth say that is a hijack of perspective and refraction. Yeah, that's a Nathan Oakley saying. Yeah, you have hijacked perspective and refraction and made it the Earth curve. Do we agree on that point?
Yes.
That Nathan Oakley said that, or that's the...
Well, that's the mantra. I mean, put it this way.
There's like, I've heard 10 different
you're cutting right out, you think.
Okay.
10.
I'll
go through them. I need 10, because I only knew of 2. I've been here a lot longer than you, Finky, and if you know 10, wow. Let's go. I need to know the others other than perspective and refraction. What else could it be?
I've seen your Polaris maths. We have the personal azimuthal grid of vision, which causes things to set. There's sinking refraction.
Perspective, refraction.
No, that's
Come
absolutely
on, Finky.
not
Some other than perspective or refraction.
No, that's not
the perspective. Dome is perspective. Fucking hell, come on.
No, it's not. It doesn't even have perspective in it. It's personal azimuthal grid of vision. It's not. I mean,
that is perspective.
No, but like, this is the thing. You'll say, like, I did what I call perspective math. It's not perspective math.
It's not perspective.
Right. Okay. Anyway, you haven't come up with anything other than perspective and refraction, have you?
Well, you're just rejecting what I say and saying it's not perspective.
Okay. I must be doing a category area. Can you do as Raki has said in the chat and just put them in there, because I need to research them, because I genuinely think they say, flat earthers say, it's a perspective effect. And I'll cite flat earthers. Forget Nathan Oakley, because I mean, when I had a debate with him, we never had any issues. He never shouted at me or never swore at me. But either way, Nathan is the core proponent of its perspective and refraction. But I can give you life is short. He actually went down the whole perspective route, and I can give you Travis the plain truth. He goes down the ether band route. It's a refractive effect. Okay,
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with perspective. I'm fine with perspective and refraction, and we'll just say that within those categories, I would disagree that people are actually doing perspective. I mean, I would just disagree.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it that, because in my mind it means something different. So we can continue.
Yeah, it's hilarious on that, considering that Walter actually got the dome model from Jeranism's The Personal Dome, which is based on perspective, and then that led on to the azimuthal grid because that is an azimuthal grid as if it's in stellarium. So I find it hilarious that you just said, no, there's 10, and then actually listed just refraction and perspective, but neither here nor there. So we established flat earthers need a mechanism of perspective or refraction or the combination of the both. So let's go into side view. In side view, can you show me any side view that accounts for a perspective or refraction?
No, side view is
And-
not. It's not perspective. It's a different projection. So you're not going to have perspective in side view.
Exactly. So what you're basically doing, and this is, I mean, it's a cheap trick, I think, because in my personal view, and just before we get onto this final bit, I do need to point out eMBO. I mean, eMBO, sorry that it's been of me and Finky, but eMBO did say that his stance was it's lens distortion and knowing the distances. So as soon as you have that, you can recover it. There is no additional like perspective distortions. It's all either the lens or not knowing the distances. So
Or-
you need to
Or,
go on.
or
Sorry, Embo, correct me.
refraction. Or
Okay, yeah,
refraction.
refraction. Yeah, I was talking more perspective. I actually said refraction in the side view there, and I shouldn't have, because we should just concentrate on the perspective side. But I set myself
Okay.
up to be an idiot because
Just
I obviously
wanted to
just-
clarify in the case if you wanted to say that I didn't account for refraction. But
No,
yeah,
no,
let's
no,
just move
no,
on to the
you're
perspective
cool with that.
topic.
Yeah. In all honesty, my Polaris maths doesn't account for refraction. That is purely, in my eyes, a perspective effect. But the way we differ is that I do believe that there are perspective distortions. Okay, they may be minute, they may be massive. Okay, but until you actually recognise that they actually exist, and obviously you're not on that, and I don't expect you to believe my words. Okay, so that's exactly why I cite the papers, because in that photogrammetry paper that that someone said, oh yeah, he's just cited it because of that. That literally says there are lens effects, but the main effect in distortions is the perspective of the viewer. Okay, and I'm going to get into this from a flat Earth point of view. Okay, and go back to what Finky just said, and he was exactly right. When you put something into side view, you remove all accounts for distance distortions, they're called. Okay, because you are removing
Direction.
the perspective. Yeah, you're literally putting it in a side view, and what actually happens there is that does not allow any flat earther to have a horizon. And what that then allows you, any globe earther, and always has allowed everyone, including conspiracy cats on that mountain one, is they can then say, okay, this is reality, this is the side view, look, you cannot hide anything over a horizon because you haven't got one. And what you've actually done, wait there, what you've actually done is you've caused that by switching into the side view instead of analyzing the perspective view.
You just said a minute ago, perspective view and side view match on the center frame. And also, by the way, I think
What's
like,
that got
I
to
don't
do with
want
anything,
to.
Pinky? What's the center frame got to do with anything?
It's
That's
the
one
like
point.
if I look
Yeah,
if I
one
look
point.
center. Hold on,
Yeah.
I'll answer. If I look
Cool.
center frame, right, and then I look out and I look for something being obstructed in perspective view, and then I take the side view of that. We both agree there's no perspective distortion there.
Only on one point. On all of the other points in the camera, there is.
I sight it right up on Polaris.
This is the thing.
And then I look
think,
side view. I look side view and I
Sure.
draw a line.
Sure,
I draw that same line to Polaris.
I agree
There's
with
no,
that. I
there's no
agree with that. I just
Okay.
told you I agree with that. But we're moving on to mountains and taking photos, and this is where I'm coming at. Okay, so yes, I agree with that. You're
It's the
taking
same
a one
thing though.
shot.
I can put the
It's
center frame
not.
on the mountain. I put the center frame right on the tip of the mountain, and then on the inside view, according to what you said, I can draw that line, and it's going to match.
Ish. I don't.
No. It will
No.
match.
There's an ish. There's an ish there. Yeah, and
Okay,
this is
but-
what I want to explain. I mean, first, let's get over the. Do you agree that by switching into side view, you remove any chance of flat earthers hiding anything over a horizon? Yes or no?
The horizon's right there. It's the ground. The horizon's the ground. But yeah, nothing in perspective view gets hidden unless there's something in front of it.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we're darting all over the place there, but I'm going from Polaris with a one-hit view, yes. But now I want to move away from that because that Polaris was, in my eyes, abstract maths. And as I said, my next inquiry was go over to perception. Okay, and I agree with you all. Perception doesn't happen in cameras. Okay, but what does happen in cameras is you have a viewpoint, and that viewpoint has a vanishing point. Okay, and I agree with you that even on that camera, taking a photo of the mountain, that should be geometrically correct if you point at the top of the mountain. Okay, however, there are effects which do affect that. Now, here's one minor effect, just to give you just one, just so, and again, I can back all this up as well in these papers if you've actually bothered to read them.
I've read them, yeah.
Right. So do you agree in that photogrammetry one that they do say that the majority of perspective distortion is due to the actual perspective, not a lens?
Yeah. But it also, the majority of it's on
And
the outside of the picture.
Apologies then. You disagree with eMBO because eMBO said no, there's no other effect other than lens distortion. And
Yeah, perspective
knowledge.
distortion is real.
Okay.
Perspective distortion is a thing, yes.
Okay, eMBO, come and rescue yourself.
Okay, so the question was, knowing all of those parameters, like the distance to the object, like refraction, the focal length of the lens, will we be able to reconstruct the image? And I answered yes, not because I don't think perspective distortions don't exist, but because I think they are derivable from the positions of the objects you are observing. If you have a 3D model, let's say you have a 3D coordinate system, and you know the position of the mountain is like 10 meters away to this side, like 5 meters away to the z-axis, and so on and so on, then perspective distortions are not something external from this. They are just a matter, they are just an effect of transforming this 3D coordinate system into a 2D coordinate system, which is this projection plane you're looking, right?
And it's the same reason why once we know the lens, we can also back out of it.
So even though they exist, they don't require any additional information. That's why I said you don't need any additional information, because that was the question, because they are basically a product of the positions of those objects relative to the observer in 3D space.
Okay, so what you're saying is there are lens distortions, there are perspective distortions, but as long as we know all the details, we should be okay, and geometry should be able to bring that back.
Yes.
So it's not just the actual lens. Okay, I may have misunderstood, but I believe you just literally said no, it's just the lens. But anyway, getting back to it, let me give you an example.
Real quick before you before you go on, I just want to make a point.
Yeah.
This is sort of like the way the conversations go. We're just going to get dragged through like a series of points, but the real point, and like the thing that like I got engaged initially is, and you did this just a second ago, you'll say, well, I believe that the Polaris stuff works because of perspective distortions, and you may not agree with me, but let's move on to something else. Like, show us that. Show us what it is, what perspective.
I was just about to give you an example.
Okay, perfect.
Before you interrupt.
I don't want an example. I just want to know I want to see the thing that makes it work.
No, I'm going to show you an example for the mechanism that makes it work. And you putting it inside view is removing that mechanism. Okay, let me just give you the example, and you may understand this. Okay, so when you've got, let's say, a however foot building, you've got 200-foot building in front of you. Okay, will you measure differently based on your position? And this is literally measuring, taking a photo, and you know that building's 200 foot. Okay, will you measure differently if you are at the bottom, in the middle, and at the top? If you took 3 photos, would there be any difference there?
What do you mean measure? What do you mean? Like, what do you mean by difference?
Pixel-wise, in as much as where I'm coming from, I'll tell you where I'm coming from.
I can tell you. I'll tell you exactly.
Okay,
tell me the height.
Interrupt me then. Don't worry about it. Go.
No, I was going to answer you. You asked a question. I was going to answer it.
No, I was saying my perspective of this is, or my understanding, let's say, and correct my understanding, is that you have to be dead center in order to get the correct height. If you are at the bottom or at the top of something, you are approaching it at an angle, and there will be a discrepancy in the measurement.
Oh, so can I answer this? Because this is
I'm
actually
done.
what I just.
That was my thing.
Okay. This is actually the same exact thing I already explained in my monologue when you weren't here yet. Yes, there will be a difference. If you look from the top or from the bottom, the angular size of the building, it will be less than if you look from the center. But what is happening here is that you're presenting this and trying to separate this from geometry, saying that we have a discrepancy and therefore there's some external distortion that isn't just geometry, but this is just a result of geometry. You can just take this 3D space the building is in and the observer is in. You can use projective geometry, and projective geometry will literally just predict this exact fact, and I can just derive it. So I think what is happening here is that you're taking the word distortion, which is like the fact that the distances, the angles aren't preserved when you transform into perspective, right? But then, because it's distortion, you're assuming this isn't derived based on geometry, but that's a completely baseless assumption, because transformations between different spaces, they can distort. Just a transformation between a sphere and a plane, it will distort your distances. That's still geometry. You can still have a geometric function describing and predicting how much distortion you will have at different latitudes and longitudes. The same thing is happening here. You have a distortion, yes. Is it predictable using geometry? Yes, it is. So my question would be,
I don't even think I don't think it's a distorted eMBO. I think it's like, according to perspective, if I take a picture from the top of the building versus the middle versus the bottom, all it does is just changes the geometry of what's happening. It's not a distortion. And in fact,
that's the semantics thing, right? That's why I previously said there is no distortion, and he kind of used this and said that, haha, I admitted there is no distortion, but later I admitted there is distortion. That's why I contradict myself. The semantics, because, like, let's say, one way you could define distortion is just that saying that a quantity isn't preserved when you do the transformation. There is the angular size. There is the angular size when the observer is in the middle. Then there's the angular size when the observer is at the top. They are different. They aren't preserved. Then, according to definition, you have a distortion. But then, this is the way I interpreted the word distortion when saying that, is that it's something that isn't predictable, but by this geometry, that this is something that we have completely no idea about, we have completely no model for, and we just cannot predict its value. And this is something I disagree with, just to specify what I mean when I say distortion. What I agree to.
Yeah, I agree with everything there, apart from you are disagreeing with a ghost, because I've never said that. Yeah. What my point of view is eMBO. You just admitted there that depending on the perspective, and bear in mind the camera is, we're assuming that the camera lens is perpendicular to this photo, so we're not up or down, as in we are moving. I'm doing this with my bloody hand and you can't see it obviously, but you up in a lift, there we go. So if we had a lift in one building and we're looking at another building, you are saying that we will measure something different. It will be minute, but we will measure something different from the bottom and top versus the middle. The dead middle should be the geometrically correct version.
Yep. That doesn't even have to be minute, right? Let's assume the building has rectangular sides, but at the top it's a square. Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like, it's a So if you actually if you actually go perfectly to the top and look it from the top, perpendicular to the building, then it will appear as a square. It will be a completely different shape. From the side, it will be a rectangle. From the top, it will be a square. It doesn't even have to be minute. But the problem here is that it's still predictable by geometry. If you just say I can kind of get why we would say it isn't predictable, and that's some kind of problem. If you just use this angular size formula calculator and you just say, think that this is our entire model of perspective, this is how perspective geometry works, and it isn't, is an idealized calculator
It's an
where
approximation.
yeah, exactly. Where the observer is facing the object perpendicularly, like the line of sight is perpendicular to the object, and where he's at the center of the object. These are the exact conditions you gave for this observer that is, in the middle of the building. From any other angle, it will be slightly different. So yes, if you just use this approximation, this is just a calculator for only this specific case, then it will give you a bad result. But you can still do projective geometry. You just have to basically use linear algebra. What you
Sure.
basically have is matrices. You know what matrices are?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, they are like set of numbers. So you have one
In a grid.
matrix.
Yep.
Yeah. So you have one matrix that describes the coordinates the object is at in those numbers, and then you do a certain calculation on it that changes every single coordinate, and you get a new matrix with new coordinates that will be in this perspective space.
Sure.
And this is basically what is being done, for example, in 3D video games. If you go play any game like Minecraft, let's say, it simulates every single effect that you described. But yet it's a human invention, so we know how to model it, and the reason is because we use this advanced projective geometry. So I think to convince me that I'm wrong, that it can be described using geometry, you would have to present an effect that we actually don't know how to account for using geometry. Not talking about the angular size calculator, that's a specific case. The same way as Newtonian gravity is a specific case of relativity that applies only in certain conditions.
Yep.
You would have to show something that cannot be explained even like more advanced projective geometry with matrices and with linear algebra, the same way you have in video games, where you also have vanishing points, you also have horizons, right? And stuff like
Yep.
that.
Sure. I mean, just to give you a background, that is exactly where I come from. I started probably when the Kinect camera for the Xbox come out, and we was making games for that, or started making games. I didn't actually complete one at all, but we started making games on that and learned that it was really difficult to get the perspective objects correctly. Yeah, it looked a bit weird when you've got the camera capturing you and then you add an object to it, like it's very primitive, what they call it, augmented reality, where you have an apple in your hand or something that isn't in your hand. It's a thingy apple. But anyway, that led me on to looking into, there's a guy at Harvard called Dale Purvis, and he is the actual, his paper all talks about VR and how in computer games, you, just to say, I don't know whether you've ever seen this in your life, but considering you brought up Minecraft, are you aware that somebody went away and done a curvilinear version of Minecraft, which actually more represents reality? It was using hyperbolic geometry rather than Euclidean.
No, I actually haven't heard of that. I know there's a game which assumes non-Euclidean geometry. It's called Hyperbolica.
Yeah, no, I know that one where you walk
trippy.
through a door and it goes up. It's trippy as hell. I know exactly the
Yeah.
one you're on about. Yeah. But anyway,
But
I need to establish this. This is a core thing that I don't think Finky agrees with you on, but probably does now. That when you're looking at those different angles, you did say that there is a difference, and I am not actually arguing. You can never recover that, but you have to consider that. This is my point. Now,
I do disagree with that. Yeah.
yeah,
Because
okay.
I don't think, I mean, I could be wrong. I totally could be wrong on this, but like when you do perspective matrices, and like when you talk about angular size change and viewing something from the top of a building versus the middle or the bottom, like if you know the camera's height, right, and you know the distance of something, you can recreate that. There's not an unrecoverable distortion, and the perspective math is extreme. I mean, like when you get into a video game, you have to deal with like angling the camera up and down and turning and rotating around. But when you're just talking about how high something appears, It's really basic. It's just
Uh,
the delta between the observer height and the thing and the point. So it'd be the top of the building
Yep.
divided by the
Which is
distance.
closer to you. If you're at the
it-
top,
well,
the top is closer
I know,
to
and
you
if you
than the
go
bottom.
higher, if you go
Yep.
higher, then the bottom's further from you and the top's closer to
Yep.
you.
But
Well,
you said that that's recoverable, and I
It
agree.
is.
We all agree on that. We all agree on that. If we do the perspective matrix and we roll it out, yes, you can recover that. Now, this is the most important question of this whole topic. Show me where you've done that.
What do you mean?
I
Show me where
haven't.
you've done that.
Obviously, you're trying to debunk flat earthers, yeah? Is that the main game here, or are you just here to troll?
I'm just here to talk to you about this because I think you have got it completely wrong. But
Well, either way, we've just come to an understanding there. I mean, there's no shouting here. We're all being adults. eMBO disagrees with you. I agree with eMBO on certain things. Yeah, it's okay
what do you
for us
think? What do
all.
you think Embo
What do you
disagreed
want
with me
shouting?
on?
Well, he just said that you would measure something different from being the top of the building, bottom of the building, middle of the building.
I mean,
Middle of the building
I didn't
should
say
be
that you wouldn't measure something
Oh,
different. I'm just
okay,
saying
so then
the point. Okay, if my eye is level with the top of the building, and I run and I do a perspective projection, that building, the top of the building, is going to be right at the center frame. Like if you think of it in they usually project these out onto like a 0 to 1 projection plane, that will be at 0 0 or 0
Yep.
0 y value, right?
Yep, I get what you're saying. Definitely.
So
It-
if I know what height the camera is, and then I look at the center frame of the camera, the things that are right in the middle of it,
Yep.
those things I know are going to be exact. They're going to be right at the height of my eye.
Mhm.
And
But
that's
then
not,
let's
it's not
say-
like but maybe in reality that doesn't really work. It only works in video games. No, that's how it works in reality too.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
put it this way: the papers agree with eMBO's side, where you will get a measurable difference
Yeah,
between the two.
what I'm basically describing, what Finky is describing, is a special case where you're basically at the center of the object and also your line of sight is perpendicular to the object, because this is the only case where the angular size is the only thing changing. If you go closer to the object, like let's say it's a square you're looking at on a wall. If you're closer to the square, it will be a bigger square. If you're further from the square, it will be a smaller square, but it's still a square. But now let's say you're changing your position relative to the square. Like let's say you're relatively above it and you're looking at it from a 45-degree angle. That wouldn't only change the angular size, it will also change its shape in your projected space. In that case, that square would be something like a trapezoid, if I believe correctly.
Yes,
A
it's exactly
trapezoid, yeah.
that.
I agree with that.
Be-
But
be-
things, my point is, if I'm doing perspective projection and I'm looking at something 45 degrees down from me, right? So 90 degrees is the floor, 45 degrees down. I can tell you exactly where that's going to show up on the perspective projection. It's going to show up at negative 0.5 y value.
Okay, but
Absolutely, yes.
either way, we are in agreement that there could be, depending on your height, let's say, to this building, there could be, and let's just say that the building's kind of close, or even the building's far away, then it's less of an effect. But there is an effect which gives you, put it this way, I'll tell you straight away, I do not believe any of you have ever done this on any maths, on any photograph, to do with any mountain or anything that either goes in favor of flat earth or against it. Okay, now the whole point that I'm getting at this is that you can't debunk flat earthers without accounting for this, because you know why.
I haven't done that on a photograph, but
Right.
I'm still waiting for you to get back to how this ties back to Polaris.
Yeah, it
Uh,
does. And this is exactly it. We're in side view now, and we just plonk something in side view where we know it. Yeah. And what normally happens is you just get the angular size, you just get the distance, and you do not account for the position of the person, whether he's halfway up the mountain, top of the mountain, or bottom of the mountain.
Wait,
We do
which
obviously.
the person,
Well,
the observer, or
Let's say
the
White Swan. Let's say White Swan, Blackpool Tower. Okay, Blackpool Tower. You're at the bottom of the mountain because you're at sea level-ish. It's 10 foot above sea level. Okay. Now, not forgetting that the mountain is actually massive. It runs for miles. So as it's going back, it's changing in angular size. But you're only worried about the peak. So you'll get the peak, you'll get the distance of the peak, and put it this way. Let's say it's 1 meter. So it's such a minimal effect, but there is a different effect to you being in the dead center of that mountain versus being on the floor.
Yeah, you have to know the height of the camera if you're gonna do
Yeah,
if you're gonna do photo.
and I'm saying it can be recovered. So don't get me wrong. That I'm saying no, that's impossible. You can never know or anything. What I'm saying is there is that difference there, and nobody accounts for it.
Okay, the reason why nobody accounts for it is that it's basically negligible. So basically, usually those long distance observations, they are done over, well, as the name suggests, very long distances, where the distance to the mountain is much greater than the height of the mountain. And in that case, this difference, which we could define as perspective distortion, it would be negligible because it gets smaller the further away that mountain is.
Sure.
Because let's say if let's say you're at the very top, you're at the altitude of the very top of this mountain. You're standing on a mountain that is basically the same peak as the mountain you're looking at. So you're at the very peak. If that second mountain is very close to you, then due to this tilt to perspective, it will be tilted at a very big angle, right? Because it's close, and then you will probably get a big difference. But then you will move it further and further away, even though you don't move yourself. That mountain, the angle to it will be basically approaching a perpendicular angle. So the angle where you can just use the simpler formula. That's why nobody really cares to use it. I mean, I can't speak for everyone. Maybe some people just don't think about it, but that's at least why I personally wouldn't use it.
And I just want to go back and say, because remember, this started with how do you make the Polaris stuff work in reality, which you haven't explained, and then also you were going to try to explain how side view is different than perspective view, and you didn't. You said like buildings, and there's like depending on the height you're at. My argument still is that whatever that building height is, it's going to match side view. Whatever I put center frame, it's going to match side view. And that's uncomfortable because it is impossible to create a horizon, but that is the reality.
Yeah, I'll just to backtrack on that. You just said something completely wrong, and you said two things completely wrong. Where something like you said, yeah, that matches reality, or you said that I said that my Polaris maths match reality. No, I said they were abstract. I've got no physical mechanism. I can only put it down to perspective.
No, you said the perspective or the Polaris math works because of perspective distortion.
No, the Polaris maths work because I abstractly forced it to work.
No, I'm 95% sure that you said that.
No. Then it goes on to, are there any perspective distortions? If there are no perspective distortions, my Polaris maths, me saying, oh, that's perspective, holds no legs, holds no weight. Okay. Now, what I want to get back to, and I fully appreciate, Pinky, you are gagging to understand the Polaris maths. Okay, but in all honesty, I'd prefer to deal with the reality, and then hopefully, as soon as we get to the reality, you'll go, "Oh yeah, I know what he means now." Okay.
Oh well, just explain it. Just like
I'm
I don't understand why we
but
have to go through this whole rigmarole. Just because
what do you mean
I've
this
seen your
whole
spreadsheet.
rigmarole,
I know.
Pinky, do you want to fucking have a conversation or not?
I do. Sorry.
What the fuck you want about rigmarole? I'm having a good conversation here, and you're just fucking.
Okay, I'm enjoying it too.
trolling.
No, sorry, I'm enjoying it
Yeah,
too.
trolling.
Don't.
Going back to eMBO, eMBO, put it this way. Yeah, eMBO just said it's negligible, and that's the word, negligible. Okay.
Yeah.
Does any flat earther believe you when they say, and I'm going to muddle this up or merge this in with the two statements? Yeah, perspective is negligible, so we're going to forget about it. We're not even going to account for it. And
that's
refraction.
not what he said, though. That's not what he said.
He did. He did. As it goes out further away, no one would account for it because it's negligible. That's what he
What?
said.
Yeah.
Am I right or wrong?
He didn't
Embo?
say perspective is negligible. He said the height, the viewer's
Can
height.
we let Embo answer?
All right, go ahead.
I basically said perspective distortion, and I defined that word. I don't really think this is a word that is even in, scientific literature. That's why I defined it to be precise in what I mean. This is the difference in angle that you would measure if the observer was, like, let's say, on the top of the mountain and on the bottom of the mountain. That would be negligible if the mountain was very far away. Compared to its height and the height of the observer. And yeah, I don't think flat earthers would trust me, but I think that's a question to a wrong person, because I don't really care about convincing flat earthers anymore since a long time. Maybe you could talk to someone who does. I'm just doing
Well, I
this
don't even
just
know
for
why
the
we're having this conversation then, because why would you want to know anything about my Polaris maths if
Oh,
you're not
because
if you're not even going to entertain trying to debunk flat earthers?
I find it interesting. I mean, okay, let's
Okay,
put it the
okay.
other way. I want to debunk them, but the reason isn't because I think they can be convinced. I think they are, most of them, like 90% over, are too lost, because I've been trying since a long time. So at this point, I'm just doing this just for the sake of hobby, basically. I'm still doing debunk videos, but this is, again, just for the sake of hobby. My motivation being different than most of the people here doesn't mean that I cannot do it. So an argument a flat earther wouldn't really care about this, he wouldn't change his mind, it doesn't really hold much for me, to be fair, because I don't really think they can be convinced by anything at this point.
That's cool. I mean, the evidence is completely against you, because Jeranism has just become a glober again, hasn't he not? Because he was convinced by some observation that he saw.
I mean, that's why I said the majority. I think
Majority.
Jaren,
Yeah. Okay. Fair comment. Yep.
Yeah, I think,
Go on, sorry.
yeah, I think Jaron had a
You're
weaker
cutting out there,
standard
Embo.
of.
Sorry. Is it my end, or can everyone else hear him out?
I'm hearing him fine.
Yeah, it's Gleem cutting out. He's cutting out for me right now, so I think it's on his side.
It's probably my side. Virgin Media
Okay.
normally does updates on my router about this time.
Yeah.
But anyway, yep. Sorry, carry on, and I'll try and catch.
Okay. So I think Jaron had a much weaker standard of evidence before he even went there. I think maybe he wanted to abandon flat Earth even before that, because most other flat earthers, they didn't care about this final experiment at all. They reacted violently when it was announced, even though they have made multiple statements before that they would love to go to Antarctica, because they simply believe it will be impossible, and that will make their beliefs unfalsifiable. And even Jaron admitted this, that he didn't expect this much backlash from other flat earthers, that they turned out completely different than he thought they will be, because that's the mentality of the majority. Like, even flat earthers who don't have that tribal mentality where they have to stick to flat earth, even they will recognize that the majority is different than them. Right?
Yep, fair point. And if I'm honest, yeah, and I will be honest, anyone, globe side or flat side, doesn't matter. Anyone who had a go, anyone who starts talking about his kids, his wife, they should be chopped off the internet and their browsers history searched. Seriously, they're disgusting. Yeah, some of the comments that I've read and some of the things that Jeren has said that he's received, absolutely unacceptable. That's not on. And it's mainly flat earthers. I know that. I am fully aware. And Jeren knows me. I know Jeren. I've been on Globebusters. Yep. So it's put it this way. Let's get to the point. The whole point is the whole point is you believe that you should omit the mechanisms that flat earthers say that they need their model to work, okay, because you don't give a shit whether they believe you or not. You are just going to represent it how you're going to represent it. Is that a fair point to say, or am I completely talking knackers?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
Yeah,
I think that's a fair point, but at the same time, I want to specify that's my personal belief and not some kind of official belief of the globe community.
I will say, and you'll understand my position from here, is that number one, I started getting into the flat Earth scene. I was at the flat Earth discussion group by Nathan Thompson. I don't like that guy, but anyway, I was in there, and I was in the depths, in as much as fighting for the flat Earth, looking to become a flat Earther, until one thing happened, and that one thing is a pilot in there. I was touting the old nonsense that, yeah, you need to poke your nose up or you're going to fly off into space. And he made me realize that, not that Earth's not flat straight away, but he made me realize that there's a deeper level to this, in as much as there's a lot of deception there. Where on that, the resolution, he said, is no. All you have to do is take your foot off the gas. That was his words. Obviously, you remove the acceleration, the thrust, but he said you take the foot off the gas and you fall to Earth naturally, because those thrusts are what keeping you up in the air, and that makes absolute sense to me. So much so, I've been on a show straight after Dave Weiss, and he actually went on my mate's show. I'm into, obviously, music, and there was a hip hop head who had a conspiracy podcast. Dave's gone on there and he's touted this same thing. So I've then contacted my mate and I've said, mate, you've got to have me on. You've got to have me on. And they even thought, and it's in that interview, they goes, Gleem, you're a flat earther though. And I'm like, no. Oh, wait there. Leave voice. Oh no, that was just Rich joining. So sorry, Rich. Anyway, I think I might have to.
You're just calling me out today.
Yeah, no, Rich just popped up on my screen saying someone who you were blocked has joined the chat. Rich, I apologise for earlier. That was me being an absolute twat. But anyway, coming right back to it, you come from the stance of you're a globe earther. You're going to represent physical reality. You don't care what flat earthers think. These negligible effects, you're going to not even bother with. Not even bother to prove, if I'm honest. But then my point of view is, if you were to account for these and show they are negligible, if you were to then account for refraction and show, nah, this can't actually work on your model, flat earthers. Yeah, how many flat earthers do you think you would convert in comparison to your current methods of going, nah, we're just going to forget about it, put it in the side view, fuck flat earthers, they don't need it, they ain't got a horizon. Would you think that my method would have more of an effect, put it that way, than your method?
I think the answer would be a little bit rude, because I think explaining how perspective works in details, it is already, if I were to do it properly, it would already be above the mathematic level of most flat earthers, so they wouldn't really bother in the first place. Like stuff like what you gave with the example of airplane that convinced you. This is much simpler compared to stuff like like topology.
Yeah, I agree. That was a simpler thing, but at the end of the day, it's more, I come from the point of view that you're not going to debunk, you're not going to squash this flat earth whole scene until you join them on their terms. Okay, no matter
agree
what.
with you on that. I would disagree with eMBO, and I would agree with you on that. That I think so. If there is perspective distortion, I'm of the opinion, like, well, let's just account for it, because we know what it is. I've read your papers. I know what the perspective distortions are, and I know that, like, for these observations we're talking about, it's negligible. So probably my frustration. And by the way, it's been nice talking to you. I don't want to. I probably get aggressive, but I do appreciate it. But I feel like it's sort of like provides this ground cover where people say, oh, there's something there that will explain why physical reality doesn't match with, like, say, the Polaris math thing. Right. And it doesn't. Like, we can go through the perspective distortion thing. There's not that many, and we could calculate each of them for photos, and it's not going to amount to enough that's going to make Polaris work. And I posted one let me just go over this real quick, but I posted at 5:24, I posted a picture of Mount Rainier. So this one is down, like, right near the water, so we know that we're not getting, like, we know what the height is, basically.
I know it.
This-
I know it inside out. Don't worry. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I've posted it. But this to me is it's even though it's not the sky, like you said, well, let's go from the sky to the mountain. This is the same problem that Polaris has. When you move away from something, the top of that mountain moves down by a degree per every 60 nautical miles. And my point is just perspective distortions aren't going to fix that. And
Yep. And then my counter to that is prove it. And put it this way, if I was a flat earther and you kept on omitting the very thing that I need to make my model work, I'm not going to believe you ever. I'm literally never. I'm going to believe you're a liar because you haven't accounted for them. And I know I use that word a lot on there, but it's exactly that. It's almost lying by omission because their core functionality that they need, you're just pressing delete on and saying, "Fuck you, flat earthers. We don't care about you. We're not going to prove you wrong."
Maybe you're right, but I'm not complete. Okay, maybe there's a chance of you being right that this would make some photographers convinced to reinterpret what they believe about perspective. But the reason why I hail these beliefs, they aren't from nowhere, is because the history I have here with Flat Earth is a history of constantly moving the goalpost. The Antarctica trip is probably the biggest one. It has been demonstrated, and before that they always said that there is no 24-hour sun because they simply knew that it would debunk their model. Because if it would be inconclusive of their model as they claim right now. If it's just some random optical effects, why would they be so motivated to claim it isn't happening? So here they could say like you cannot prove this. I could prove that, and they would say like. But we have our alternative model where light just bends the way we like to, and how do you prove we aren't correct?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, you can go back to McToon's, my very first debate on this eight years ago or something, and I say this straight away. McToon was trying to do the sun, trying to predict the sun, as he always does, and literally he was looking from a God point of view. And I said to him, look, at the end of the day, flat earthers are not going to believe you if you're looking down on it, because that is almost orthographic. You're using God's eyes and you're looking down on it, basically where train tracks don't converge. Yeah, and we know that there is a difference between looking down on the train tracks and looking up them. So there is definitely a difference there. And as we've agreed there, that was just one of the minor effects of looking up and down. If you now get the camera, yeah, we were perpendicular to it, and that's why the reason why I mentioned it. If you tilt that camera up or down, you get another distortion on top of that distortion. If you get that. It may be negligible.
There's just a different matrix for rotation that you apply to it.
It could be negligible, the difference between perpendicular and that, but the site that I just put in there about the photography, let me read it because he puts it in such a good manner or such a good way. And again, his name's Wayne Fulton, and he is I've checked him out. He's got a photography shop, let's say, but his actual speciality is image scanning, and his website goes massively in depth with it. But what he says is the camera is assumed level vertically. Then, if both the camera back sensor plane, and the object itself are both vertical, so everything's standing up straight and you are level, then these, sorry, I added that in, apologies, I do that wander off to try and make clarity, but then these are parallel at any object position. So there is no tilting, no walls falling backwards, but larger angles from center can cause foreshortening of vertical dimensions. Okay, so all it's saying is obviously you perspective will shorten with distance. But then he goes on to say, or if the camera is aimed up or down, the same effect, plus or minus angles are the same effect. The angle causes the object pixels to optically measure shorter than it actually. I've just posted it and I've actually given you check the whole website out. It's not graphically, no. It is definitely information. So
kind of cutting out.
It's I think it's got to do with internet. My internet Go on, sorry, Yando.
If I could, I would love to add 2 more questions, because those are the questions, the last questions I want to ask, but I don't really have an opportunity because, like we've already been going for a long time about
it's
those
12:45.
topics. So can I ask maybe like something new?
Sure, quick fire me, because I'm going to end it on the actual Polaris thing where you
Okay.
chucked us over the
Th-
geometry
th-
thing and I got it
th-
wrong.
This is about Polaris. This is
Yeah, go
about. So you say that it at least matches observationally, even if you don't have a model for why this would happen, it would still match reality. But
Oh
this
no, I have a
is,
model, eMBO. Sorry, I've got to interrupt you there. Dark angles, come on, come on. Where's my dark angles?
Oh
at?
yeah,
Go on.
dark
Sorry.
angles.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. So problem with this is that it's only for a single observer, and in reality you don't only have a single observer watching Polaris, and what you get when you add multiple observers is that even if you grant bending lights to make it appear in those places, then you basically couldn't hold 6 nautical miles per degree relationship for all of those observers in all directions at the same time. If you assume it works for one in all directions, like if he goes radially away from this center point where he's standing, then he will have this relationship. That implies that another observer, if you add a second observer, that wouldn't hold for him anymore, basically, because the geometry of the surface here, it what enters, what comes into play, and it makes it not equivalent between a flat Earth and a globe Earth. For instance, let's say you can have 4 points on a globe which are all the same distance apart from each other, and the sky will turn the same amount of degrees between each other, but on a flat Earth you cannot have 4 points that at the same time are the same distance from each other. It's a problem for any set of multiple points. That's just one specific example to help you visualize how it isn't equivalent if you add multiple observers, even if you grant bending light, because that's the problem of the surface, not of the sky.
Yeah, under my assumption, it would be that every single person has their own dome of vision, and it all starts from their eyes. So you are 10 miles down the road, you get my maths, and you've got your personal dome based on your 10 miles down the road. I've got my 10 miles, and they wouldn't be that much different, but there would be a slight difference between the two, in as much as if you try to match them both up. But if I'm looking as one viewer, I'd be able to see it at a particular angle. And then if you use my maths, same maths in your personal dome, it would still work out for you. So I could have 50 million people all having their own perspective domes. Like Walter only has one, doesn't he? But if you can imagine one for every person, and obviously people standing side by side, there's going to be no difference, virtually no difference. But then, yes, if you've got 4 people 10,000 miles apart, then yes, literally they have their own view and they will still have a correct angle with the dark angles.
I'm not talking about a person, what they would see from their place where they are standing. I'm talking when they move, like when one observer is starting to move towards the second observer on a flat surface. This dome of vision wouldn't be able to change 1 degree per 60 nautical miles.
I kind of get what you're
because
saying.
of the geometry of the surface. Like, let's say,
because it has the dome just does dark angles and it fixes, like it basically just fixes wherever you're at.
No. Put it this way: if there is a mismatch in both of them, so to say, I kind of don't get it, but I do get it. I get what you're saying. If we move them both closer towards each other, then you would have to eventually get the same angle, same dome. Basically moving next. I think I'm going to need you to show me that in diagram wise or something like that, if that's okay, because I can't visualize it. I can understand what you're saying.
Let me give you an example.
EMBO, I got to drop out.
So
thank you guys.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
Take care.
The only beef I would probably leave with, I mean, the one thing is just like basically the way that Polaris works is with dark angles, which is just another way of saying we just make up math to make it work. But But the other beef I have is that side view always works with perspective. Perspective works, or the orthographic view works. I think like claiming that it doesn't is not correct. It does work. So
From a flat earther's point of view, it doesn't, because it
well,
doesn't.
I know it's uncomfortable
yeah.
for flat earthers. I'm just saying geometrically it works perfectly every time.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Well, you just press and delete on their horizon, so nothing will set if you take it into the side view.
I know, and that's an
yeah.
unfortunate reality. But then we just have to look elsewhere. We just have to look elsewhere for it. Like, but saying you can't use side view because of some reason, like it does work. We just need a different explanation for why it doesn't match reality. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
It was
enjoy.
cordial,
Take care.
have a good night.
I've still got a little bit left with you, eMBO, with the angles. Okay, so my angles don't match geometry, do they? So if my right angles are right angles, obviously, but they show Polaris, and a lot of people get this mistake. They say you've got 90 different Polarises. No, it's just 90 different angles of the same Polaris, but Polaris appears to move, but physically it should be at the same height. Yep. So
yeah.
You're exact, and this is where you showed the right angle with the tree on it, and I think it was something like 35 degrees, and it had 47 in there. Okay, and then I come back with a figure of 29 point something, and the actual geometrical version is 32. Okay, I need to ask you a question, in as much as if I would have answered 32, what would have your hang on, don't look in the chat. Yeah, but I'm going to type in what I think you're going to say. Yeah, and please don't look in the chat. But
can you repeat the question again?
Yep, it's
Please.
basically when you drop that on me, and I gave you the angular size version based on the person being dead center of the tree instead of buried in the ground as a right angle geometric triangle. What would have your next question have been if I would have answered the geometrical way? In as much as if I would have said 32.9, I think it was 32.9. Wait there 2 seconds though.
So tell me when I'm supposed to respond.
Okay, so yeah, what would your next question be? I've already done it in the chat now, please don't look. But what would your next question be if I would have answered that geometrically correct?
So you've done it, like I'm not looking, have you done it my method or have you done it your method?
No, what you did is I've presented Polaris maths. They do not match standard geometry because they've got Polaris, which is in a physical location, moving. I've put it, the actual column title is apparent height. I used as the terminology. So I'm using non-standard geometry. If I would have answered it correct, meaning 32.9 instead of 29 point whatever, yeah, what would have your next question been?
What is that angle in reality?
Okay, I slightly, I was trying to push it down the way of I knew what you was going to ask next, in as much as if I got that same triangle on my Polaris maths, it wouldn't be the 32 figure. It wouldn't be the geometrical figure. So I believe, and I might be wrong here, eMBO, but it's a natural thing. You were trying to snare me into saying, if I got that 32 degrees correct, you were going to say, so why the fuck is your Polaris maths not saying that? Yeah. Which is true. My Polaris maths does not match right angle triangle geometry, albeit they are right angles, but I'm making Polaris move in height when it shouldn't. It should be dead still up at 3,958 miles.
Yeah.
So the reason why I purposefully got it wrong and brought you, this is the whole thing. I've presented you with maths that doesn't match standard geometry. And I've said, right, I didn't say the word dark angles then, but I said, no, this is down to perspective. Yeah, where you're apparently seeing something drop. However, it's still at the same height in reality. Okay, whether that works or not doesn't matter. Well, it does, but whether that actually works, dark angles become something that we can use tangibly. But whether that works or not is irrelevant. You were leading me down the path of you're doing a side view, Gleem, and in the side view, that should be geometrically correct. However, you're representing a perspective distortion that doesn't exist, but a perspective distortion which makes Polaris change in altitude when it shouldn't. So I believe you were leading me down. I've presented this thing saying, look, flat earthers believe perspective distortion. I've done this maths. I can only put it down to perspective distortion because I haven't included any refraction. Yeah. And then you've come back and said, well, Gleem, what is this right triangle without perspective distortions? And then if I were to come back saying, yep, it's the right geometrically, this one, you would have all the right in the world to say, well, your Polaris maths doesn't match that. You're an idiot. Okay. Instead, what happened is you still called me an idiot because I answered in perspective, showing that there was a difference. Okay. And the difference was obviously because I've shifted the observer up to be half the height of the tree rather than down in the bottom corner. So it was just to put that on the table and say, yes, you believe you got a gotcha, but it was me flipping it back on you to say, no, I'm not allowing you to go into the geometrical world when I'm talking about a perspective distorted world for the flat earthers. So do you understand why I got that wrong? And this is not a oh, I got that wrong and then realized it, I really want to do it. I purposely did that to avoid moving the topic away from perspective distortions.
To be fair, I already knew that was on purpose, the one with Polaris, because in my opinion, to be perfectly honest, you've been always kind of a troll, where you kind of know the answers that like you know the reasons why your arguments don't hold if you were to be honest, and because you know that, you're on purpose doing the opposite thing, and you're being dishonest just to avoid talking about those devastating problems to your ideas, and to kind of drag the conversation without getting debunked.
I mean, that was laying it on heavy. Yeah, you can see it from that perspective if you want, but I believe, well, what is more honest to you? Because you're saying I'm trolling, yeah, and I'm being dishonest. I'm the liar, and obviously, from my point of view, you're trolling and you're the liar and you're being dishonest. Now, in your opinion, what is more dishonest? Accounting for these perspective and refraction negligible errors or not?
I think accounting for them.
It's more dishonest.
Dishonest. I
Yeah.
think not. I think not accounting for them would be dishonest if the opposite side requested doing that.
Okay. So that is why I am not a troll. That is why I'm not dishonest. Yeah, I'm literally giving you the mechanism to debunk flat earthers on their own terms. And the reason being is that I know you're not going to do it. Yeah, 11 years I've watched and sat and watched everyone just go, nah, perspective distortions never exist. And they don't even go as far as what you've just said there, eMBO, where there is slight differences somewhere, but it's negligible. They don't even admit that. They say that geometry matches perspective in a one-to-one relationship. And I know that, okay, whether that works or not doesn't matter. Well, it does, but whether that actually works, dark angles become something that we can use tangibly, but whether that works or not is irrelevant. You were leading me down the path of, you're doing a side view, Gleem, and in the side view that should be geometrically correct. However, you're representing a perspective distortion that doesn't exist, but a perspective distortion which makes Polaris change in altitude when it shouldn't. So I believe you were leading me down. I've presented this thing saying, look, flat earthers believe perspective distortion. I've done this maths. I can only put it down to perspective distortion because I haven't included any refraction. Yeah. And then you've come back and said, well, Gleem, what is this right triangle without perspective distortions? And then if I were to come back saying, yep, it's the right geometrically, this one, you would have all the right in the world to say, well, your Polaris maths doesn't match that. You're an idiot. Okay. Instead, what happened is you still called me an idiot, because I answered in perspective, showing that there was a difference. Okay, and the difference was obviously because I've shifted the observer up to be half the height of the tree rather than down in the bottom corner. So it was just to put that on the table and say, yes, you believe you got a gotcha, but it was me flipping it back on you to say, no, I'm not allowing you to go into the geometrical world when I'm talking about a perspective distorted world for the flat earthers. So do you understand why I got that wrong? And this is not a oh, I got that wrong and then realized it, I really want to do it. I purposely did that to avoid moving the topic away from perspective distortions.
To be fair, I already knew that was on purpose, the one with Polaris, because in my opinion, to be perfectly honest, you've been always kind of a troll where you kind of know the answers that like you know the reasons why your arguments don't hold if you were to be honest, and because you know that, you're on purpose doing the opposite thing and you're being dishonest just to avoid talking about those devastating problems to your ideas, and to kind of drag the conversation without getting debunked.
I mean, that was laying it on heavy. Yeah, you can see it from that perspective if you want, but I believe, well, what is more honest to you? Because you're saying I'm trolling, yeah, and I'm being dishonest. I'm the liar, and obviously, from my point of view, you're trolling and you're the liar and you're being dishonest. Now, in your opinion, what is more dishonest? Accounting for these perspective and refraction negligible errors, or not?
I think accounting for them.
It's more dishonest.
Dishonest. I
Yeah.
think not. I think not accounting for them would be dishonest if the opposite side requested doing that.
Okay. So that is why I am not a troll. That is why I'm not dishonest. Yeah, I'm literally giving you the mechanism to debunk flat earthers on their own terms. And the reason being is that I know you're not going to do it. Yeah, 11 years I've watched and sat and watched everyone just go, nah, perspective distortions never exist. And they don't even go as far as what you've just said there, eMBO, where there is slight differences somewhere, but it's negligible. They don't even admit that. They say that geometry matches perspective in a one-to-one relationship. And I know that Finky will be screwing about this and going, oh, it does. But that's only if you get your perspective matrix out and analyze it properly. No one does. No one has done. And I know you won't do. And I know Finky won't do. I mean, Finky's calculator is done on purpose to not work or not match with reality, just so he can go, look, this is linear perspective. It don't work. Earth isn't flat. No. If you want to debunk flat earthers, you have to account for what they call their mechanisms to hide stuff bottom up. Yeah, and put it this way, I believe I am more honest in coming from that point of view than you are coming from a press delete. In science, we just press delete on negligible things. We don't bother accounting for them. Silly flat earthers, they should just believe us that they're negligible. You understand my stand?
Yeah, I do understand, but I think the difference here comes from our experience with people who believe in flat Earth, because in my opinion, I just using inductive logic, I just don't think that the chance that they are going to even engage with the argument is enough big to put too much effort into doing that, if you get what I'm right. This is basically this has been basically described as a joke law on the internet as Brandolini's law, which means that the effort to debunk bullshit is always much greater than the effort to protest it. So, like, let's say,
I agree. That's a good statement.
Yeah. So, like, let's say the Aether guys are probably the most extreme example.
I'm
here,
one of them
because they. Oh, you're one of them.
I'm an Aether guy. I definitely believe in Aether. Yeah.
Okay. But like to get my point, you can basically just take any paper that you think proves your position about relativity, right? And you don't. I mean, you could if you were to be rigorous, but that's not what the Aether boys do. They don't do any derivations of those papers. What they do is just to declare that this paper in some way disproves relativity without any actually going through the math of relativity. They just kind of declare this based on their interpretation of what the words there mean. And then when you want to debunk this, you need someone who's basically a physicist, who's a theoretical physicist, and who's a theoretical physicist who specializes in general relativity.
Yep, I agree with all of that. Yep.
So the more advanced a topic you have, and when someone just misrepresents it with practically zero effort, in order to combat it, you will need to, the unproportionality between your effort and their effort will be greater and greater the more complex topic you have. And in my opinion, there's a point where it's just not worth doing that, knowing the mentality of flat earthers. If you get my perspective, right?
I get your perspective, but I don't understand your perspective. I don't understand why you would spend years of your life, and same as me, spend years of your life knowing that you're emitting the exact same thing that you know is going to debunk a flat earther, because on the understanding, no, this put it this way, there are brand new flat earthers coming in who are on that theta point, meaning that they've just left the globe, they think it is flat. Yeah, but you could sway their result back to the globe if you done the math. And I'm not saying do the Aether math, I'm more talking about the perspective math. That's a lot easier. But I think the Aether boys and me will play, let's say, with the concepts in as much as they're not finite known on a globe. In current science, 0 point energy is the equivalent thing, let's say, or the Higgs field or something like that would be a ever pervading energy throughout the whole of space in everything. Yeah, that yes, I agree with you that if you want to prove something from the Aether cosmology side, they will need to get someone like, I think it's Frank, is it? Frank, I don't know whether you've ever seen him on Twitter. He's a CERN scientist, and I think he's adamantly against Aether, but would entertain it. But it's exactly that. Yes, they would need that maths to take it to the next level. However, at the moment, they're playing with the concepts, and I don't believe that there's a problem with that. I believe that is literally science. Yeah, although you don't believe Earth's flat, they could do something similar to this, or it could urge them to learn the maths themselves or do some calculus themselves. And obviously Mel's going to be loving that because I don't know how to do calculus. Yeah, that's not me. I am not that person, obviously, that could even do that. But at the end of the day, if that urges them to do that, and let's say they come up or resolve a problem in science, which I know that you're going to go, flat earthers could never do that, but I see flat earthers as actual human beings. Yeah. If they accidentally stumble across a solution to dark matter, which is very rare, obviously, but you've got to understand, if you know a bit about physics, Einstein wasn't the greatest. Einstein wasn't the most smartest in the room. Don't get me wrong, I don't slate him because his work on geodesics and everything like that, you've got to hold that into high regard because it's lasted so long. His theory is literally embedded in physics, and it works. And it's, in my view, not been falsified. However, I have been told it has from a globe earther, Mel again. But the core thing is they're playing with the concepts. If they play with the concepts and learn science and learn other stuff from it, even if they make up stuff along the way, I don't believe you've got a right or I've got a right to step in and say you're wrong, just in case they come up with something.
I think.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead. We started at the same time.
Same word as well.
I think the probability of that is so low that that's
Is it negligible? Is it negligible? Yeah, so
yes
you
it
just
is.
delete it
Oh,
and you just
oh,
take that out your
I
memory.
mean, yeah, that on default I wouldn't even entertain it. And if they, I would say that if they indeed already did that amount of rigorous work, that they construct something that they even think is a solution to dark matter, then that would already that should already give them confidence to publish it to try publishing it in some journal basically, because at that point like you're doing rigorous work and that's something that can be actually peer reviewed. In my opinion, if you're doing something that is less than that doesn't even have a chance, then you wouldn't want to do that because you already know you're going to get debunked. And I think that's kind of a natural filter of how to distinguish bullshit from non-bullshit when it comes to pseudoscience like that. That they don't even try to consult the scientific community, and instead their only audience is people who don't really even understand the topic, so they can form their opinion on it and correct the mistakes if there are mistakes. So
I do
you
agree.
get me.
I do agree, but disagree with a lot of that because I've seen flat earthers engage with PhDs, with masters of physics and whatnot, and debate them. And the more point I'm coming across is, yes, I agree with you that the Ether Cos guys, number one, they wouldn't publish a paper from a flat earther's point of term because they wouldn't be accepted into peer review. But what I'm more saying is, if let's say this Frank CERN guy, they're debating him and their concepts, they're playing with the concepts, yeah. So they're going out of the box. And if there's something that they come up with that Frank can then go, right, I can do this maths, let me have a look at it, and then Frank produces the paper based on that. Then it's Franco. Sorry, yes, Gally. Sorry, it's Franco, and he is cool. He is funny, but yeah, if Franco done the work for them, completely separate. So he's coming from a Glober's point of view, obviously, but their concept that they've come up with fits and it works, and he makes it work. That could bring a breakthrough. And me personally, from my opinion, you should never disregard that because all developments of science come from the fringe of science. Einstein being an example.
In my opinion, that sounds very good in theory, but the reason why I think that in order to even construct this kind of theory is that you need to possess this understanding yourself, that you yourself would be able to write a paper, is that relativity at this point is basically so complicated that in order to even understand its implication, to even understand the model, you have to know the math. I don't think it's possible to correctly understand relativity without the math, because at this point of how advanced the theory is, the math is basically the language in which the theory is written. So you can get some layman's understanding about, like, let's for instance take the statement that space-time is four-dimensional and it bends under the influence of mass. This is something that is not described mathematically. You can understand this intuitively, but if you want to make actual like predictions, then you need to know the math. And in my opinion, you cannot really do anything productive with what they are doing simply because this theory is so complicated. It cannot be separated from math. I wouldn't make this separation. It is like learning quantum field theory without knowing like tensor calculus and stuff like that. So I definitely I think the chance is basically zero. I wouldn't even say it's negligible. I think it's basically zero because this math, like differential geometry, is the basis of relativity. It's like saying that you know someone could write a beautiful poem without knowing how to write, basically. What was the probability of that?
Okay,
It isn't only negligible. We know for sure, we know for 100% that they wouldn't be able to do that, right?
No, I get that, but where I'm coming from is more they could make a sound which creates a new word, and that's what I'm more coming from. Is yes, understand that. Let's say me personally, I believe in the 0 point energy field as ether. Yep. If I were to come up with a concept that somebody else could run with and do that maths, who understands that maths, that has not, I mean, it's obviously very, very rare, who has not been fought before, then all to it. If they go down that road and write a paper and loads of people debunk them, doesn't get peer reviewed or anything, okay, well then you find out that. But what I believe you're doing is putting a bottle top on science,
Okay.
and
But
I don't think that's
but
yeah, that's
I
not my
think
point of view.
I think we have a problem even on the first step. How do you even define your idea of what you think your idea is without the math? Can you give an example of
Yeah,
something
sure.
that you would
You can
imagine?
understand the principle without the math. Okay, so relativity. We know Einstein's statement of you can have two separate frames and treat them equal. So the sun stationary, sun moving. Yep. So that concept, you don't need to know calculus, do you?
You don't.
Can
Yes,
I
but
ask eMBO a question?
Go on. Sorry.
Yeah.
eMBO,
I will
eMBO,
say it's
when
1
in the
o'clock in the
history of
morning. So go on.
yeah, eMBO, when in the history of science has math ever explained anything? Can you give me one example where math has explained anything?
yeah, for instance, the basically the entirety of quantum mechanics that we use for in practice for purpose like quantum computers and stuff. It was basically entirely theoretical, and that was confirmed by experiments. That would be probably the most powerful example.
Shut up and
You're
calculate.
saying quantum actually exists in reality. Is that what you're claiming right now?
Yes.
Can you show me exactly where I can find this quantum you speak of? Can you point to it anywhere in the universe? Is there a spot you can point to show me quantum? Because I'm not sure if you realize, but the etymology of quantum refers to the amount thereof, which isn't a specific thing. It's a quantity, i.e. quantum. So quantity isn't a thing. It's the amount thereof. But go ahead.
No, the etymology of quantum comes from quants, which are the particles, because it's a theory. A quantum theory is a theory that postulates that the world is made of particles, that it doesn't just, isn't just composed of infinitely small matter. At some point when you zoom in, you're left at something that cannot be split into small things. That's basically what quantum means.
So you're trying to say it's an undivisible amount of matter. Is that what you're saying? It's a fundamental particle. Is this what you're claiming?
Yeah, basically.
Can you substantiate that, or is this just theoretics, pure theoretics, based upon abstract math? Because unfortunately, you have no way to substantiate this. This is all just bold-faced claims.
I mean, there's at this point there's thousands of ways the existence of atoms has been proven. It's like asking for proving the existence of electricity, but to get like a random one.
This is all up for grabs. Yes, electricity is heavily in question. When you have an electron having zero spatial volume, yet claiming it physically exists, there's a huge issue there. And when the electron is a constituent of the atom, we have big problems, especially when you're claiming the atom is 99.9% empty space, right? That's an illogical thing. You can't have 99.9% empty space.
Why?
Emptiness isn't a thing. Emptiness is just a qualifier of something being empty of something else. Okay? So when you act, eMBO, like all of this has all been hashed out, it's all been verified and provable. I don't think you're completely understanding what you're saying right now.
So, do you want an example of how atoms were proven? Like a random one out of hundreds? I can think of the top of my head.
Was it by experiment, eMBO?
Yes.
Yeah. Can I just actually interject there and just say that is a classical case of a
Let me guess, verification fallacy?
no, not a reification at all. No, it's a classic case of us changing the concepts based on experiment. In as much as we used to have a concept of an atom, which was an indivisible particle, and we still kept the name atom, but we changed the actual meaning of the word. And that was more where I was coming from, where a flat earther could do an experiment, which they're obviously using for their term, for their world, for their model. However, you could then find something in there that could change the meaning of, like how atom went to a divisible particle, because we smash and collide them every day. Yeah. So either way, give the example. I'm going to go and actually get a coffee, but I'll be listening. Cool.
Okay. So they basically passed light through a crystal, and that gave them the exact diffraction, but because crystals, according to all the atomic theory, they are composed of atoms that are connected in a ordered way, right? It's like a net of atoms that are in some geometric way, like let's say polygons. And they hypothesized what would be this arrangement of the atoms, and because of
That's the
that,
crystal latticing structure, not the atom itself.
I mean, it's composed of atoms. It's that's the point.
Bro. Yeah, what's the
and-
point, Daslow?
That's not
Hold
that's
on,
not
man.
true,
What's the
dude.
point?
Do atoms ever touch eMBO?
No.
Yeah, Adam's never touching your
Atoms don't
models,
touch
no.
eMBO? Is that what you just said? So you want to walk back what you just said prior to that?
No, because it didn't contradict anything I said. It didn't imply they have to touch. I was only saying that they are in an ordered manner, like for example, in a form of polygons.
Again, that's the crystalline structure following the Millen index. But we're talking about atoms. So let's stay on topic.
That's the atoms, right? The atoms are the, how do you say this in English? Like the points on the sides of the polygon.
Those would be the electrons.
No. What? What the fuck? What are you talking about?
You're on about quarks.
You're talking about the atoms creating a crystal structure, right? And you're saying the points of the polygon actually interconnect. And those are the atoms.
They don't touch, but they interconnect because of intermolecular forces. That's why they are holding place.
Oh, that's great. What's the topic here? What's up, Dicelo?
What's up, Jeremy? He's trying to say that
forget him, bro. Forget him. Just
Okay.
what are you guys talking about?
Okay, never mind.
Well, yeah, we were just talking. I was asking how math proves anything when math is just a descriptor. Math has never explained a single thing in the history of science, and that's not the purpose of mathematics. So I love when these globers come in here and act like math is the end-all, be-all solution to explaining reality or disproving or debunking something. Completely false.
That's just a fact. You cannot explain anything with just math. It just
the
doesn't
topic
work
was
like
Dicelo's voice just completely changed. Must have happened.
I know. I didn't even know who that was. I thought
me either until you said Dicelo. Until you said Dicelo, I'm like, what?
I had to check on this. I had to check to make sure he was lighting up.
Jeremy, sorry. Hi, Jeremy. Either way, I haven't spoke to you in years, mate. Hope you're well.
What up, Gleem? How we doing? It's about time you get in here and go 4 or 5 hours straight with these guys in the voice. You get a lot more done.
I know. They triggered me this time to actually plug in to pull out my extension lead for my headset. But I just want to recap just before I get off, because it is 1:20 and my neighbours are probably about to bang on my door. But essentially, from my bias point of view, okay, I think we hashed it out. But from my bias point of view, I'm happy that eMBO actually told me that I hold the more honest position, but he doesn't give a shit. And I also respect him for actually coming up with, yes, there will be a measurable difference, but it will be negligible. Okay, and you don't give a shit on that either. But it was a good conversation. I'll still be plugged in, but I think I'm going to be crashing out soon. So either way, good conversation. Thank you for that, eMBO. You were respectful, more respectful than you are in the chat, and probably so am I. So I will say it is better to come into voice, but obviously I'm in England, so I have to wait until late at night until you lot get on. So either
We're on
way,
all day, Gleem. We're on
I
all
know
day.
I listen, but I work, don't I? So I'm listening in the background and typing like heaven in my breaks and stuff. But yeah. It was a good conversation to hash it out. I think we now understand each other's position, but I hold the biased view that I still am the more honest person, and counter you calling me a troll and dishonest, because I've been in the scene so long.
You said you're a moron. You said you're a more honest.
More honest, yeah. Well, it was basically.
I thought you were dissing yourself. All right.
Yeah, more honest. I'm a more honest. Moronism. But no, it was more, and it is honest. Embo is honest on that. He and respect to that, because I come from the point of view is you must account for these negligible effects of perspective distortions and refraction in order to debunk a flat Earth, if they ever will. And I know that they will never. And Embo confirmed it and literally said, "No, I'm never going to do it because I don't believe that would convert any flat earther." So he's fine to have that opinion. I disagree with it, but that's debate. So thank you. Sorry. Either way, I'm just going to back out now. I'm going to have a coffee, and I might jump in if someone triggers me. But anyway, everyone in that chat, you shut up about saying I'm scared to come and debate. It's such a weak tactic. Stop it. It's childish.
You're scared. You're scared, Gleem. You ain't a crooks on you, a shook one.
Salute, Jeremy. Anyway, I love you. You make me crack up. I am Larry as well. I am Larry is one of the funniest people I hear on there. When you and him go back to back, it is so hilarious. You've had me crying so many times. Either way, salute everyone. One.
It was a good conversation to listen to, Gleem, and you're the flattest glober I've ever known.
A lot of people say that, both sides. Yeah, salute.
Cheers.
Bye.
Appreciate your kind words.
And big, I'm so sorry for people say that, both sides. Yeah, salute.
Cheers.
Bye.
Appreciate your kind words.
And big up Finky, and I'm so sorry for making that mistake earlier with Rich. I really apologise to Rich because I called him an idiot, and I'm an idiot for calling him an idiot. It's an idiot inception. Peace.
An idiot inception. That's a really nice little group of words there. An idiot inception.
He's a more honest. What do you want?